One of the biggest difficulties in learning Portuguese is the pronunciation, especially the pronunciation of vowels. This happens because each of the 5 vowels can have different sounds. This varies with the positioning of the vowel in the word, but without following any easily grasped and universal rules. You can't really say A is always read like this when at the beginning of a word, because that simply is not true. There isn't a list of rules that native speakers of Portuguese have mastered to know how to properly pronounce each word. Or maybe such list of rules does exist, but it is never taught because it will certainly consist of several pages of rules and exceptions for each letter, and even the expert linguists who would know it by heart would have to forget it whenever they open their mouths to speak, or they would feel so confused and hesitant that no intelligible speech would come out. Instead, take a different approach. Try to learn the pronunciation of each new word as you encounter them, and don't worry too much about finding a universal rule that you could apply to every word. However, even if universal rules don't exist, you can follow some pointers to guide you along your path. A can be open, closed, or nasal. When open, it sounds like someone opening their mouth at the dentist and going ah. With this sound, the A can also take 2 diacritics and it will be read the same. Carro, má, aço, pato, barco. A useful note about diacritics with A is that it is the only vowel that can take the grave accent, and only in the word a compound preposition meaning to the, and words formed from it. The closed A sounds a little like the U sound in English words like but or sun. This A can sometimes take a circumflex accent. When it does, that's a sure way of knowing that the A is closed. Fazer, mas, galinha, fita. As for the nasal A, there isn't an equivalent in English. It's almost like you're trying to pronounce the closed A while squeezing your nose with your fingers. Go ahead and try it, but this really isn't something you can do in your daily life while speaking Portuguese, for obvious reasons. Instead, try to listen to the examples and imitate them the best way you can. It can be found on its own or in the combinations ão and, less commonly, em. Cão, mãe, pão, maçã. The letter E is probably the hardest vowel for a learner of Portuguese to master, not so much in its open form, which can have an acute accent or not. Era, vela, época, seca. You will come across 2 other pronunciations of E. In one of them, the vowel almost disappears and it may be tricky at first to hear it. It's like the E disappears and only the previous or following consonant is pronounced. Escola, estrada, cidade, arame. Then you have the E in words like abelha, coelho, espelho, ameijoa, with or without the circumflex accent, which makes it easier because it shows you how that specific E should be pronounced. This E is subject to a lot of regional variation. Outside Lisbon and Porto, you may also hear it pronounced like this: abelha, coelho, espelho, ameijoa. Both pronunciations are correct. When followed by an M in the end of a word, the E acquires a short E sound after it and becomes nasal. Também, bem, nem, sem. Followed by an M or N in the beginning or middle of a word, it is still nasal but without the short E sound. Emprestar, tentar, venda. The I is quite simple by comparison. With or without the acute accent, it is always read like the double E in the English word free, igreja, simples, vida, língua. The O can be open with or without an acute accent. Ora, ótimo, bola, Copo. It can be closed with or without a circumflex accent. Hoje. Bolo. Mosca. Pôr. And it can become a short U sound. Bonito. Bolo. Perfeito. It can also take a tilde and become nasal in words like põe, leões, nações, calções. Finally, the U, like the I, is also simple. It is always like the double O in the English tu, whether it takes an acute accent or not. Puro, bruxa, música, dúzia. For many consonants, there isn't that much to say, and they basically work the way you're used to in English. Let's get right to it. B is one of those consonants that work the same in English and Portuguese. Barco, bom, bola, bebê. There is a bit more to say about C. When followed by an I or an E, the letter C is read like a strong S. Céu, cima, receber. When followed by an H, the combination CH has the same value as SH in English. Chapéu, achar, cheiro. When followed by any other letter, the C is like the English K. Carro, copo, acabar, cão. C can also have a special form with a cedilla, which we don't consider a separate letter in Portuguese, although it even has its own key in Portuguese keyboards. C with a cedilla is always read like a strong S, no matter what vowel comes after it. It is always followed by a vowel and can only occur in the middle of words, never in the beginning or end. Aço, peça, ação. Note, as your vocabulary grows, you'll notice that Portuguese words won't end with any consonant. They will either end in a vowel or with L, M, N, rarely, R, S, X, rarely, or Z. D is another consonant that works the same as in English. Dado, disco, dedo. The same goes for F. From here on, if a consonant only has examples and no notes, it means it works as you would expect it to work coming from English. Fio, falar, faca. G has similarities with C in the sense that when followed by E or I, it is read like a J, although not the English J that has a short D sound before it, something closer to the French J. Giro, gelo, agitar. And when followed by any other letter, it's like the English G in gate. Gato, agora, agricultura. Note also the combinations GUI and GUE are read GI and G in most words. Águia, figueira. But there are some rare exceptions. Erguido, unguento. The only thing to know about the Portuguese H is that it is never read when it starts a word. When a word starts with H, the first sound you should pronounce is the following vowel. Hotel, hora, hábito. But you don't have to feel sorry for poor ignored H. When it follows C, L, or N, it becomes very important. CH is read like the English sh. It is the only one of these three combinations that can begin a word. Chapéu, achar, cheiro. LH doesn't exist in English. It is the same as the double L in Spanish and the GL in the Italian word tagliatelle. Ilha, olho, filho. NH also doesn't exist in English. It is the same as the Spanish n and the GN in the Italian word lasagna. I'm sorry if these examples are making you hungry. Banho, vinho, dinheiro. J has the same sound as a G before an E or I, like mentioned before. This isn't exactly like the English J, with its short D sound before. It is closer to the French J in Jean. It is never like the Spanish J, and it is never read like E. The next time you hear someone saying José Mourinho's name as José, you can correct them. I'm sure they will be very thankful. José, joia, loja. L in Portuguese is read like in English. We're breaking my previous rule of not giving notes when a consonant works like in English, just to say that, unlike what happens in Brazilian Portuguese, the final L in European Portuguese is still read the same. Lua, filme, Brasil. M works mostly like in English. Mão, amor. When at the end of a word, after a vowel, it acquires a nasal sound. Bem, bom, fim. When the vowel is an A, the nasal sound is close to ão, but a lighter version of it. This ending is common in many verb conjugations. Cantam, trabalham, andam. After a vowel, any vowel, and before a consonant, it also acquires a nasal sound. Tambor, bombo, empregado. The same as in English. Não, ano, bonito. After a vowel, any vowel, and before a consonant, it acquires a nasal sound, just like M. Entrar, vende, pintor, pato, apertar, português. In Portuguese, the letter Q is always followed by the vowel U. It is always read the same, like a K in English, but the way you read the U after it changes. If the QU comes before an I or E, the U is silent. Quem, queijo, aqui. Before other vowels, the QU combination is read like a KW in English. Quatro, quotidiano. There are some exceptions in which QUE and QUY are read que and qui. Frequente, tranquilo. The R has two sounds in Portuguese. It can be weak or strong. It is strong in the beginning of a word or when doubled, something that only happens in the middle of words, never in the beginning and never in the end. Roupa, rei, carro. This is the traditional Portuguese pronunciation. Nowadays, a different way of pronouncing the strong R is more prevalent in Lisbon, Porto, and in other urban centers. This sound is produced further back in the throat and is closer to the sound of the Spanish J. Roupa, rei, carro. Note that my way of pronouncing the R is the first one of these, and that's how you will hear me pronouncing the R on the rest of this course. The R is soft in every other occurrence. Barato, ar, frio. The S is similar to the R, but slightly more complex. It is also strong in the beginning of words and when doubled, something that also occurs only in the middle of words and never in the beginning or end. Sim, assado, sal. It remains strong when placed between a consonant and a vowel. Absurdo, cansado, intenso. Between vowels, it is soft and similar to a Z. Casa, Brasil, mesa. When it comes before a consonant, it is read like an English SH if the consonant is P, T, Q, F, S, X or the combination CH. Estrela, áspero, esquerda. It is read like a ZH or like the French J if the consonant following it is B, D, G, L, M, N, R, V, Z or the combinations LH and NH. Mesmo, asneira, esguio. At the end of a word, which happens frequently because adding an S is the most common way of forming the plural in Portuguese, the S is usually read like the same ZH French J mentioned above. Mais, gatos, seis. However, when the following word begins with P, T, Q, F, S, X, or the combination CH, the final S is read SH, just like when it comes immediately before one of these letters. Mais pão, tantas facas, também, outro, atrás, verão, avô, vitória. The X is probably the strangest letter in the Portuguese alphabet. It has several different pronunciations which don't depend on its placing in the word, at least not in a way that is immediately apparent. Perhaps for this reason, the X is usually the last letter to be taught to Portuguese children in the first year of elementary school. At the beginning of a word, the X is read like CH or the English SH. This is as far as we can go in terms of stating a pronunciation rule. Chile, xadrez, xerife. In the middle of words, the trouble starts. There, X can be read like a Z, exame, like a KS, fixo, like a strong S, máximo, or even like a CH, fixe. Also, it is part of the prefix ex that in Portuguese is read the same as if it was written ex, extra. But there's no reason to fear it. X isn't as common as other consonants and you will get used to it and, who knows, it may even become your favorite consonant with all its quirks. The Z is read like in English when in the beginning or middle of words. Zebra, azul. However, a final Z also has the same French J sound mentioned for a final S. Feliz, paz, talvez. Want to learn Portuguese or are you here just to look at the pet platypus? Then try this course. I made it. In it, I explain the basics of the language and also the really complicated things, like when to use the imperfect instead of the perfect, the difference between para and por, or the 700 different meanings of the verb ficar. I also included more things for you, like a section to improve your comprehension with text to read, audio to listen to, or videos to watch. Tired of courses that copy school textbooks, pretend they are Duolingo or are just overpriced ego trips for their authors? Give this one a go! It's full of clear and straight to the point explanations of how the language works, with lots of audio examples. And every subscription gets a free Ronaldo bust. Join now! Por favor.